So before y'all crucify me, just hear me out. So I decided to go on a deep dive the other day. Deleted trucks. They're legal, everybody's screaming. Just hold on. No, they are not. But let me make a couple of things real clear before I go too far into this video. First of all, personally, I don't care about deleted trucks. I actually think emission systems are a joke. I think they're a money drain, and I think trucks run a lot better without them. That being said, yeah, I have no problems with deleted trucks. But went on a deep dive to look at this new ruling, and I came up with some interesting stuff. Made it over here to Wayland, Missouri tonight. I got like 7 minutes on my book. Now here's the problem with what's being preached about on Facebook and all this other stuff, YouTube and whatnot. The laws haven't changed. The enforcement of the regulation is what's changed. The EPA is no longer enforcing it. It's not civil. They've turned it over to the DOJ, and now it's criminal. That's why a lot of these guys, especially the last couple of years, started getting huge fines and stuff like that. They were all civil penalties. It's gone criminal now. So what we are talking about is enforcement of the Clean Air Act. And the EPA was the one enforcing it. Well, now the Department of Justice is the one enforcing it. So that's what's changed. The law itself has not. So we got into another question, because there's been a lot of gray area. Can a shop work on a deleted truck? Legally, no, but also yes. I'll explain. So I sat there and looked up a bunch of stuff, what the law says, lawyers' takes, things of that nature. But I decided I'd go one step further. I have a very good friend of mine that's a very big wheel at Cummings. So I called him. And he told me the official Cummings line, any store that's owned by the company, all they can do is oil changes, change a water pump, stuff like that. They are forbidden to work. They don't touch the engines. They can't touch the engines. That's the Cummings. Well, what about the private shops? Kenworth, Peterbilt's, all this. Anything that's emissions related. So basically, all they can legally work on is the short block. However, that is another problem altogether. The way the law is written, and trust me, I looked this up too, is if a mechanic removes a part that's part of the delete, he is not legally allowed to reinstall it. That's actually written in the law. He can't install it. That's why a lot of these people doing deletes do everything in cash. That's why you really can't write that off on your taxes. You can't legally write an EGR delete off on your taxes, because that's a felony. Not writing it off, the delete. This is why a lot of the shops just quit touching them. They rolled in with the delete. They just said, get it out of the shop. The gray area is so broad, you don't know. You just don't know. A lot of these shops did have policies saying anything having to do with the intake or the exhaust or the computers. You know, if you need an injector put in, maybe. If you need a short block, sure, why not? But that's another problem. If you have a full delete and you have to pull the head off it and you pull the intake off, like you need a head gasket, that shop cannot legally put that exhaust back on. It used to not be a big deal, but the fines You guys remember the Diesel brothers and those guys? The fines got absolutely just out of control. So that's where I'm at. Now, I'll tell you this story to tell you this one. I'm not going to tell you who it was. It's offered a truck. It's a good truck. It's a very good truck. The people that are doing it offered it a very good truck at a very fair price. But it's deleted. Now they do all their own maintenance. They have their own support system. They have all their stuff. I don't have a problem with the truck. My problem is I don't have those things. And as much as I would like the truck, truthfully, if I could get away with it, I'd tell them, yeah, I would have wired them the money yesterday, but that truck, consign that truck and just been done with it. Can't do it. Partly because I'm a one-man show and I rely too heavily on the dealer network. And everybody says, well, dealers will work on it. Yes, but dealers are flaky too. And so many dealers are franchises. They're not corporate stores. They have their own rules, and it depends on which group you're with, whether you're with the Larson Group or Rush Truck Center or Summit or GTC or any of those others. You see, there's a bunch of them. So you have to just play it safe. And I'm in a position at this point in time where I have to. If I was home every week and I had a dedicated mechanic, it probably wouldn't bother me. In fact, I know it wouldn't bother me. But, yeah, I'm not there. Here's the thing. Deleted trucks are federally illegal. They're also illegal in every state. How do I know that? Because that's how states keep their highway funds. They pass these rules, and then the states put in Clean Air Acts because they want federal money too. Every state has one. You know, you ever wonder why all of these states went with the drinking age or the smoking age or the speed limit? That's all done by the state. But they don't get their federal money unless they fall into line. That's the same way all of these states pass clean air laws, whether they enforce them or not. Kansas has a bunch of them on the book that are silly and stupid, but they're there and they're enforceable when they want them to be. Well, I'll tell you a silly law. You can't rebuild an engine in Kansas. It's illegal. It has to be remanufactured. Also, the engine cannot be older than the car. So if it's an 06, I can't put an 05 engine in it. That is illegal. Nobody's going to enforce it, but hey, it's just an example of, well, government overreach. It started off with people being defrauded because, well, they said the engine was rebuilt and they filled it up with bars leak and STP. That's how these laws get passed because, well, people get mad and demand the government do something. When in reality, they probably shouldn't have taken it to that guy to begin with. The federal government's no different. They get a bunch of lobbyists and special interest groups that pass these laws. Now, don't get me wrong. Growing up in California in the 70s, especially Southern Cal, we needed a Clean Air Act there. There'd be days where you couldn't see across the street. And when you go down Cajon into the basin, your eyes will start burning if you haven't been there in a while. Don't. It's okay. The burning quits after a day or two. But, yeah, a lot of these laws needed to happen. But some of them got a little overzealous because, well, trucks are a moneymaker. The fact of the matter is the laws didn't change at all. The level of enforcement is what changed. Everybody took the EPA dumping it to say, oh, it's legal, we can do it now. No, you can't. If you do it, I don't care. I just keep wanting to say that because I know my comments are going to blow up with, you're wrong, you're stupid, you don't know what you're talking about. A 30-second Google search will tell you that I'm right. The rules didn't change, guys. The leaks are still illegal, and the penalties are a whole lot more severe because there's a new group enforcing it. These fines are no longer civil. They're criminal now. So that's something to think about. I'll be the first one to tell you that a deleted truck runs better, operates better, doesn't break down as much, and is much more efficient all the way around. I'll be the first one to tell you that. Also, I'll be the first one to tell you that I have to run my business as efficient as I can. And me running my business efficiently means I don't delete my truck. Now I was going to end the video yesterday, but then a buddy of mine brought up some other stuff, and I got looking into some other stuff. And I went down another rabbit hole, and then grabbed a pickaxe and went a little deeper. Trust me, guys, I'm on your side. I'm trying to find a loophole here. There does not seem to be one. However, I started putting some pieces together and figured a couple things out of why a lot of these things and why a lot of guys saying, well, no, you can do it now. But I'll get to that. So the one thing that got me down this rabbit hole, he says, well, I heard there was going to be a hardship extension. Hardship? So, can you delete your truck for financial hardship? No. Trust me, I have gone through it and looked and looked and looked. I have Googled, I have read, guys, it is oof to me. It was yeah. The other thing a lot of the guys got wrong was they said, well, since the EPA was ruled by the Supreme Court, they're not allowed to make law. They are not. However, that did not mean a lot of their rulings went away, because I think Chevron won a huge case against the EPA because the EPA was kind of fining people a la carte. And so the ruling didn't away, and I'll tell you why the ruling didn't go away was because of the Clean Air Act. The first Clean Air Act passed in 1961. The next one by Richard Nixon in 1970. The one after that by Bill Clinton in 1992. Now, it had, the way that was structured is you can put amendments to it. And in 2022, the Biden administration put 19 more pages worth of amendments to it. I'll show you that here in a minute, but the Clean Air Act was not a ruling. It was actually voted on by a bipartisan majority and passed the House and the Senate every time it was passed. So that's why it hasn't been repealed. Nothing's been repealed. So I think this is where a lot of guys were getting tangled up. There's so much legalese and so much red tape that there's a line that you're not supposed to cross, but nobody can tell you where it is. Nobody can tell you where it's black and white or where the gray area is. It's like we got black way the hell over there, we got white way the hell over there, and we're in a complete fog of gray. Acres and acres of gray. Where does it start? Nobody knows. Where does it end? Nobody knows. And that's kind of where we're at. So, just on a whim, I went and looked at the Clean Air Amendments of 2022, Climate Change, and the Inflation Reduction Act, which means that's our tax money that they're using to balance the budget. That's what I got out of it. But anyways, it's basically the new Green Deal, which is a horrible idea. But if you go through it, which you can, it's 19 pages, and I am absolutely sure that if you go through all 19 pages, you're gonna have a stroke. Yeah, I went through it a bit, and my head started hurting a lot. So it's just, look, it's crap. Anyways, oh look, direct spending and regulatory programs. Hey, that means more tax dollars. Anyhow, yeah, let's get out of here before we all die. So I actually skipped all the way down to the conclusion.
After years of trying and failing, Congress has enacted landmark legislation to tackle climate change. Through the Clean Air Act amendments of 2022, Congress provides the EPA with more than $41 billion to establish new programs and use existing ones. This new funding and authority, combined with the pretexting regulatory authority to address greenhouse gases and the CCA, create a powerful set of tools to move the nation decisively forward on cutting climate destabilizing air pollution.
I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't read that with a straight face. We all know what it says. It says, hey, your tax dollars are going to go fund a bunch of things that are going to fail and a bunch of new things that are going to fail on top of the old things that are failing. I think I've summed it up. Truthfully, I give less than a crap if you delete your truck. It's not important to me. This is just one of those things that's been talked about and talked about and talked about. And I'm here to tell you, I did my research. You should also do yours. Nothing's changed. Deletes, like I said, deletes are still illegal. They're still criminal. They're still all the thing. Except now, the enforcement has become much more severe. So that's just something for a little food for thought. Like I said, if you delete your truck, I don't care. And truthfully, I know I'm going to hear it in the comments. And I don't care there either. So y'all be straight out there, guys. This is just something that I've been going through, and I went on a deep dive and thought I'd tell you what I found. What I found, in a nutshell, nothing changed. So keep trucking. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. See you next video.